Which games are must bets for week 3 of the 2024 NFL season? What's going on, gridiron gamblers, football fans? It's Mitch here with my week 3 best bets versus the spread, my 5 favorite picks versus the spread for week 3 of the 2024 NFL season, including one bonus pick. If that sounds good, spike the like button and subscribe for weekly best bets here on the Bottom Line View. The goal is simple. I'm trying to make you some money, man. And if you really want to make some money, the place to go for my bets is Patreon. If you want to support me, the brand, and if you want some advice, head over to Patreon, link in the description. It's $10 a month for all of my bets every single week. In this video, my favorite spread picks. So let's get started, guys. But first, an update on how we're doing. Week 1 and 2, not bad, not terrible. It's the start of the season. We will grow, we will get better, we will improve. 5 and 5, bonus bets 1 and 1. Last week, we did better, actually. A week that was really difficult, a lot of upsets. 3, 2, and 1 on our favorite picks. We had a push with the Houston Texans, -6 against the Bears, a game that they should have covered. I don't like you, Cam Akers. 18, 12, and 2 is our overall spread record for the season, where we pick every single game against the spread. So let's get started, guys, with hopefully our best week so far, and I have a feeling I'm motivated. So I think this will be the best week of the season so far, because I'm hearing the critics out there in the comments. Don't think I don't see your comments. Keep them coming, because we're about to be humming in week 3. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Let's start it off with the New England Patriots +6.5 at the New York Jets. Yes, I'm backing my squad. I do not care. Call me biased, call me whatever you want, but I'm trying to make some money. And I'm trying to help you guys out. And one of my favorite picks this week is backing my squad on the road on Thursday Night Football, getting nearly a touchdown against a team that doesn't deserve to be favored by this many points. Both teams are 1 and 1. And if you look at it just for what it is, which team has actually been more impressive? The Patriots or the Jets? Because I would argue it's the Patriots. They could very easily be 2-0. They beat the Bengals in Cincinnati, a team that should have beat the Chiefs, or were right in there with the champs, right, on the road. And they could have easily beaten the Seahawks at home. The game went to overtime, and they had a blocked field goal, which would have pretty much gave them the victory. So the Patriots are slept on, and the Jets are overrated. They were absolutely dominated, annihilated by the San Francisco 49ers in the opener. And in week 2, again, Will Levis does the Will Levis turnover thing, and somehow they pull it off. But it wasn't super impressive, in my opinion, against the Titans. I think you could make an argument that the Titans were the better overall team in that game. Now, credit to the Jets for pulling it off, but I'm not impressed. I'm specifically not impressed with the Jets' defense. That was expected to be, even by my standards, a top 3 defense in football. It's not playing like that, and they are dealing with injuries. Up front, Jermaine Johnson tore his Achilles. He's a very good edge setter and a very good pass rusher. He's a good player. They don't have Hassan Reddick, who they've been counting on. Of course, he's dealing with the whole contract and, I don't know, head thing. He's just not in it. And then we have, of course, CJ Mosley, also questionable for this game, has not practiced all week. I don't expect him to play. So 2 of their better run defenders could be out for this game. Their run defense has struggled. We've seen them struggle a little bit against Tony Pollard and the Titans, but more so against the Niners, Mason, and Kyle Shanahan in week 1. And I expect Alex Van Pelt to continue the same thing he's been doing with Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson. That's running the ball down the throat of opponents, controlling the football, condensing the game, and therefore, with 6.5 points, likely making this game very close. Not that many possessions, a defensive game. And if there is rain of any degree, that will hurt the Jets more than the Patriots, because the Patriots are not pushing the ball down the field. They're all about short, intermediate passes, getting the ball out quick, trying to protect their offensive line, which is limited in pass protection, and they're going to run the rock. And the Patriots have the superior run game in this game. Ramondre has been one of the best backs in the league so far. I know Breece Hall gets that hype, and it's deserved. He's great. But Stevenson, just as much this year, has looked fantastic. And I think when you look at Alex Van Pelt and his history, he was the OC in Cleveland. You look at a Cleveland game where they beat the Jets 37-20 last year, late in the season. He can take elements of that game plan on, I think it was a short week then as well, take that element and apply it to the Patriots game plan this week, where they ripped apart a really good Jets defense last year, and they were playing better last year than they are now. I think the Patriots are a real live dog here because their defense is good. Gonzalez can go toe-to-toe with Garrett Wilson and slow him down. And the Patriots have a very good run defense. The Seahawks barely ran on them at all. So did the Bengals struggle against the Patriots running the ball. And look, Rodgers is not Rodgers. Like, he's uncomfortable with pressure. Keon White has been an absolute animal the first 2 weeks, getting after quarterbacks. And I think New England's secondary can really provide some issues for Rodgers. If Rodgers is just going to throw the ball out to the flat, they're just going to tackle him. I don't think he's really making a lot of plays down the field against this secondary. He's really uncomfortable to stand in there and take hits. I think New England is going to make life difficult for this offense. Mayo knows this scheme very well because he's coached against it for the last couple of years with Hackett and this simplistic West Coast kind of like Walmart version of the Shanahan offense. So I'm not super impressed with the Jets on either side schematically. I'm not super impressed with the line of scrimmage play on defense. I think the Patriots can run the ball, control the clock, and have a superior rushing attack here. And I feel like, yes, Rodgers should be better than Brissett, but he is overrated right now. So I just think that this is too many points in a game that is traditionally very low scoring, traditionally a one-score game, traditionally a matchup that the Patriots do own. So I like the Pats here, even on the road on a Thursday night and a short week. I think this is way too many points. Give me the Pats plus 6.5. Again, reminder, guys, before we get to the rest of our picks, and usually I don't do Thursday night picks, but because I felt so strongly about the Patriots, I had to put them first in this video, and I had to make them a best bet for the channel. If you're looking for the rest of my picks and my bets every week, of course, Patreon is the place to be. Patreon is the place to go. That link is in the description as well as the pinned comment. Also, members, YouTube members do get this video first. They get this video first before anybody else. So shout out to the YouTube members who are signed up. They get this Best Bets video, and they also get to comment on my picks every single week in the live chat. The public cannot. So shout out to the YouTube members. Next up, we have the Baltimore Ravens, -1 at the Dallas Cowboys. This is a fundamental bet. There isn't a lot of X's and O's involved, but we will dive into that. With the Ravens, I just can't see them going 0-3. It's really that simple, and sometimes you have to back human nature and back a winner like Lamar Jackson, who has one of, if not the second best win percentage among all quarterbacks in football currently, only behind Patrick Mahomes. The guy doesn't lose, and you know who he doesn't lose to specifically? The NFC. Lamar is superb against NFC teams because they never see him play. They never play against him. So they're not prepared for his speed, his quickness, for what he brings to the table, his elusiveness. Lamar's a motivated man after a loss to the Raiders. They're 0-2. They need a win desperately in a tough division. The Bengals have an easier schedule. The Steelers are 2-0. They could be 3-0 now. The Ravens need to pick up some wins. They don't want to miss the playoffs. Right? They're in a Super Bowl window every year with Lamar Jackson as their quarterback. He won the MVP last year. But at a fundamental level, I believe in the Ravens to bounce back in a big way on a surface that should make Lamar quicker and faster. And I look at this game as a game where the Ravens should have massive edge in the running game. And that's what I really lean into here. Derrick Henry, running the football under center, getting them going, kind of like Alvin Kamara in the Saints last week, putting the Ravens ahead and putting Dak in some uncomfortable third downs, passing situations, having to throw with a lot of volume, which is where the Cowboys have struggled against the Packers in the playoffs last year, against the Saints last week, where they just can't keep up because the Ravens are going to control the ball on the ground, run the ball, stay balanced, stay out of third and long, stay out of Micah Parsons' prime territory to rush the quarterback. And that is going to allow the Ravens to dictate terms of the game. Because I think the Cowboys struggle against the run, specifically big, powerful, mauling offensive lines that can run it down your throat. That is the Ravens. Despite their flaws on the offensive line, that is what they do best. And then you look at it defensively, the Ravens are an elite run defense. The Cowboys have a bad running back group. They're not a good offensive line right now. They can't run the ball at all. That makes the Cowboys very one-dimensional. I think Baltimore has enough in the secondary. Marcus Williams, Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton. They should be able to slow down the returning Ferguson, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert, whoever it is. I think they can throw enough complex looks, different coverages, moving the safeties, all that sort of stuff that they do at a high level to get Dak on one or two plays, to sack Dak, to make him hold the ball a couple times against a simple Mike McCarthy offensive approach, and also be able to maybe get him to throw a pick into coverage. A guy like Kyle Hamilton can make that happen, or Roquan Smith over the middle. So this is a tough matchup when you really think about it for Dallas. I think Dallas is overrated overall, and I do see the Ravens as a team that's desperate for a win in Dallas. So I'm going to take the Ravens -1 here and back them to beat another NFC team in the Lamar era. Next up, we have the Houston Texans -1.5 at the Vikings. This one I'm a little bit less confident about, but I do feel that the Texans just flat out straight up away are a team that I had going to the Super Bowl. Like, I'm that confident about CJ Stroud, this team, this coaching staff. And the Minnesota Vikings were not a team that I saw being a relevant team by the end of the year. Now, do they have great coaching? Yes. Do they have things that I love? Justin Jefferson, pretty good offensive line, a savvy, aggressive defense? Absolutely. And is their home field legit? Yes. But I think people are overrating them because they beat the Niners. And the Niners are just specifically a matchup that the Vikings have thrived upon. It's like one of those logo matchups that whenever it happens, the Vikings just tend to win. At the same time, Flores just seems to have the upper hand on Shanahan as well as Brock Purdy, where Brock Purdy has been rattled the last two matchups and played mistake-prone football. And they've been able to rush after that offensive line of the Niners. But when it comes to the Texans, there's a different element here. They have CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, to me, is an absolute certified alpha stud. This guy is a baller, and he can put the ball wherever he wants it. He can create time on his own, and he's going to be able to see the blitz coming. He's been very good against the blitz so far this season, greatly improved from his rookie season. His receivers are fantastic, and I don't think the Vikings can cover the depth of this receiving core. From Nico Collins, who looks like maybe the best receiver in the league right now, to Stephon Diggs, to Tank Dell, to Dalton Schultz. There's so many options. Stroud is very good at getting the ball out quick when he has the chance. And if you do blitz him and he creates that extra moment, these receivers are going to make you pay. It's a Stephon Diggs revenge game. It's a Danielle Hunter revenge game. Speaking of the defense, I think DeMeco Ryans will send an aggressive game plan, unlike the Niners or the Giants at Daniel Jones. The other former New York quarterback, Sam Darnold. Darnold is a guy that's always struggled with the blitz and always struggled when pressure collapses the pocket and when he's uncomfortable, and he tends to throw too quickly into coverage. And I think that DeMeco, given his game plan against Caleb, will try to replicate the same against an offensive line that could have a beat-up center in Bradbury and a beat-up right tackle in O'Neal. Hunter and Anderson were fantastic against the Bears. And I think there will be a lot of zero blitz, considering that, maybe the receiver position of the Vikings outside of Jefferson isn't too fantastic. Stingley can stick on Jefferson well enough to apply pressure with extra people and make Darnold uncomfortable and kind of take away Darnold's greatest superpower right now, which is Kevin O'Connell being able to draw up expertly the perfect design against the coverage of the quarters coverages or whatever cover three that the Niners were playing, or perhaps the Texans will be playing, because there is some crossover there. But DeMeco's a smarter D coach. DeMeco's more aggressive than other Niner coaches. And I think DeMeco believes that his front can get there against Sam Darnold and cause some problems, with really only Jefferson being the great weapon of this attack. So And I wasn't really super impressed with the Vikings offense last week. I thought they benefited from some turnovers, from some fourth down stops that the Niners, unfortunately were not able to come through with for San Francisco. But I just think the luck runs out to a certain degree. They beat one elite team last week. I don't think they're going to go 2 for 2 on beating two elite teams, especially when considering, in my opinion, a pretty significant gap of Purdy and the tendency for Purdy at times to have really bad outings in games versus CJ Stroud, who's been a lot more consistent with his reads, his accuracy, a lot more composed under pressure. I think that Purdy is a good quarterback, but I think Stroud's a great quarterback. I think there's a difference there. And I think the Texans have not played their best so far. They're 2-0, but I think they can play better here, and the Hunter and Diggs revenge spots will definitely power them to a good performance. So I have the Texans on the road as the better team, higher power ranked, going in there, making a statement, winning that game, and all they have to do is win by 2. So give me the Texans, the better team, to win this game in Minnesota. Then we have the San Francisco 49ers, speaking of the boys, -7.5 at the Rams. Now, the reason I love this is, first of all, unlike the Vikings, the Niners own the Rams. Kyle Shanahan owns Sean McVay, and he owns all his disciples, period. We saw it in week 1, Robert Saleh. Now, I think this is just as much a bet on the Niners as it is a bet against the Rams, and more so a bet against the Rams. The Rams' offensive line is completely beat up, and they are cooked, bro. Like, absolutely cooked. The offensive line of the Rams, they might have a backup at every starting position this week. They just put on Jonah Jackson on IR, and really the only starter they have left is the running back Kyron Williams and Matthew Stafford. That's it. Like, Puka's out, Kupp is out, Higbee's been out. Like, they have no receiver talent that really scares a team, especially against Charvarius Ward and Lenore, who's one of the best corner duos in football. And the Niners pass rush and D-line should completely wreck and dominate this game. I can't see the Rams running the ball. If they do run the ball, it's going to be dangerous because that's going to be 3rd down and long. And Stafford's going to be a sitting duck for Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd, Javon Hargrave, and Malik Collins. Like, the Niners will overwhelm the Rams up front. I can't see the Rams sustaining success on offense. They might have a drive or two where McVay strings together some really creative screens and like trick plays and like some smoke and mirrors, but I don't see it being, a long period of a game where they can go toe-to-toe with the Niners. An offense that, yes, is without Debo and CMC, but their O-line is intact. Purdy is there. You still got Ayuk. You still got Kittle. Jawan Jennings is there. Very underrated player. And Jordan Mason should have a day against a Rams defense that couldn't stop James Conner, can't stop the run, got ran over by the Lions, doesn't have their number 1 corner in Darius Williams, so who's covering Brandon Ayuk? It just feels like this is a Niners team that's going to be pissed off because they lost to the Vikings again, and they were very bad in that game. There's a lot of reason for Kyle to be, going after his team, getting them motivated, getting them excited to beat their rival, the Rams, down. And this is what the Niners do. They beat the Rams. So I like the Niners -7, -7.5, preferably 7, but 7.5 is fine. I think they win by 10 plus. So I would take the Niners in this game in LA. Plus, it's on the road, but not really, because the Niners fans will show up here, and it probably will be like a 50-50 crowd. So even the home field advantage isn't too big of a factor for the Rams. Even that is injured. Next up, we've got the Seattle Seahawks. -4, -4.5, preferably 4, but 4.5 is fine. At home against the Dolphins, so another home team here. But we've got the Seahawks. And I feel like Seattle, I don't know if they're necessarily underrated, but I felt against my Patriots like Seattle showed up in a way that it kind of sparked a conversation about Seattle. Like, their offense looked real in the portions of that game. Like DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Geno Smith playing like a top 10 passer right now. He was putting the ball on the money. Like, he was making plays. Like, the Patriots weren't playing bad defense. Geno was making plays, and those receivers are legit. And if he can do that against New England in New England, he can do that at home against Miami, a team that couldn't stop James Cook, a team that has struggled overall. I don't think they're that great of a defense. I think they're fairly mid. I think Ramsey is absolutely too slow for Metcalf. I think they don't really have a great matchup for JSN in the slot. And Yeah, maybe Kenneth Walker's out. That hurts the run game, makes them a little bit one-dimensional. But I'm not too concerned that Seattle won't score 24 plus points in this game. Like, I think they're going to move the ball. I think they're going to score. Geno really looked good with a pass-heavy script, and Seattle did a great job of stretching out New England, throwing the ball to the sidelines, like throwing horizontal passes, opening them up vertically. They're going to find a couple splash plays through Tyler Lockett, through DK Metcalf. Geno's aggressive. He's the best quarterback by far in this game, as the Dolphins will have Skylar Thompson, no Tua Tagovailoa, who's injured. And I think the big thing about Tua is he's not an amazing talented quarterback, but he's so good in the system of the Dolphins in terms of timing, rhythm, precision, knowing where to go with the ball on the right play. And now you're playing a defense in Seattle that Mike Macdonald pretty much has cooked Mike McDaniel and Kyle Shanahan in the past. Like, this guy has been able to really take it to those schemes and been able to slow them down and confuse their quarterbacks. And if he can do that to Tua and he can do that to Purdy, he sure can do that to the boy Skylar Thompson at home in Seattle, where it's super loud and you're going to have to communicate to a really bad offensive line that has injuries. Teron Armstead's questionable for the game, and their guards are terrible. They got whooped by the Bills at home on a Thursday night. Yeah, they have the extra days, but they got to travel across the country. And you're dealing with Byron Murphy, and you're dealing with an underrated interior, Leonard Williams, a good push from the middle of this defensive line. And then you look at the edge, and Boye Mafe was whooping the Patriots tackles left and right last week. So the Seahawks have an underrated pass rush. Devin Witherspoon and Reek Woolen can go toe-to-toe, I feel, with Tyreek and Waddle. I'm not too concerned. And I think Seattle's defense is going to make Skyler, the backup, make him look like a backup. I think McDonald will have them prepared. I don't think they're going to be confused by the Dolphins' attack. I think the Dolphins, if anything, will have to be more simple, more reliant on the running game, try to replicate what New England did, but I don't think they've got the O-line, the power, the push to be able to do it. They're too horizontal. I think Seattle matches up extremely well on that side of the ball, and it's in Seattle, so I just think this is a bad spot for the Dolphins in terms of, yes, they have a backup potential spark emotionally there, but they could equally come out and be super depressed about, Tua maybe never playing again. Is he going to come back this year? We just got bullied by the Bills again. What are we? Are we even good? Seattle on the mean, at the same time, meanwhile, is on the rise. A team that believes in themselves, a team that's pretty healthy, a team that is going to be at home 2-0, could go 3-0. And sure, could Seattle take the backup lightly? Perhaps. But I think McDonald will have the defense ready because he knows how good, McDaniel is on the other side from a scheme standpoint. So I think Seattle is a good team, and I think good teams beat backup quarterbacks at home. So I'm going to take Seattle -4.5 in this spot. And then the final pick and the bonus bet for week number 3 is the Tennessee Titans -1.5 versus the Green Bay Packers. And the reason this is the bonus pick is because if Jordan Love plays, I'm not betting the Titans, obviously, and I'm not betting this game, period. So take it off the card. But if we continue to learn that I think Jordan Love will not play, then I'm betting against Malik Willis once again. And I understand I lost last week. It is what it is. I would do it again, right? Like, the problem was I underestimated how bad the Colts run defense was. And obviously we only saw a sample size of 1 week with the Colts run defense, right? So that hurt our bet. And Anthony Richardson hurt our bet. But I think when you look at Tennessee, first of all, it's not at Lambeau. So there's going to be things, just as I said with Skylar Thompson, where you're going to have to communicate on the road with crowd noise, in Tennessee against a defense that probably the most underrated defense in the league. They currently lead the NFL through 2 weeks in yards allowed per game. So Tennessee has a very good defense. Their front is nasty. They've got big bodies like Simmons and Sweat up front. Ernest Jones, a great run defender. And then you've got Landry, Key on the edges. I don't think the Packers are going to be able to simply run the ball. They're going to have to activate Malik Willis into the game plan and throw the football. And now with tape from a week of study for Tennessee to see what they did against Indianapolis, the Packers, that's going to allow them to not be surprised or shocked at what the Packers are going to bring. I don't know how much LaFleur can really bring that's new because Malik Willis has to be able to understand it and execute it. And I just don't know how many wrinkles you can bring because Willis has not been there for 3 years. He's been there for like 2 months at the most. So to me, like, Tennessee should be 2-0 right now. They should have beaten the Bears, if not for a punt block, interception, one of the dumbest picks I've ever seen. Like, Will Levis actually played pretty well outside the dumb plays against the Jets, and he made some big throws and some big scrambles. If he just doesn't have the biggest boneheaded play of the week, and they don't get a punt block, which they've been 2 for 2 the last 2 weeks, the Titans could win this game running away, assuming Malik Willis is the quarterback. Because I think the Titans defense is for real. They're at home. I think they'll shut down Jacobs in the run game, force Willis to throw, and I don't think he'll have anywhere to go against these corners. And honestly, like, Tennessee's offense is decent enough. They can run the ball with Tony Pollard. You've got Calvin Ridley. Like, you've got enough there. Willis is not going to be able to win this game. And I don't think the Titans are going to let him win this game, considering they just traded him to Green Bay. Like, it is a revenge spot for him, but he's simply not good enough to make it happen. And if anyone knows how he plays and what he struggles with, it would be the Titans. So Tennessee -1.5. I love this pick as long as Willis is the starting quarterback, and hopefully we can now go 1-1 against Malik Willis this season. Those are my best bets versus the spread for week number 3. Again, guys, check out Patreon for all of my bets each and every week in the NFL. Subscribe for weekly best bets against the spread and weekly picks, power rankings, live streams, and more. And Gronk spike the like for more people to find this video. Appreciate everybody watching, and good luck on your bets this week. It's Mitch. Deuces.